Hello, my fellow friends, my fellow neighbors, and my fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here. Our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to an all-new episode of the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight Series, to be precise, episode number 103. My name is Jonathan Masiulionis, the president here at Empowered Publicity. Thank you so much for spending some time with us wherever you are and wherever you may be. It's going to be a most excellent trolley stop. I'm really looking forward to sharing our special interview that we have with all of you this week, because as friends, as caregivers, and as custodians of children, we really like to tell our kids that they can be anything that they want to be when they grow up. Now, even though they may be years away from, writing those resumes or doing the job interviews, our children really do have loads of skills that can help them to perform all sorts of careers, like journalism. Now, little known fact, before I actually ventured into the world of Empowered Publicity, growing up, I wanted to be a sportscaster. I wanted to be the next Chris Berman of ESPN. As I like to say, the universe has a little bit of a different plan for all of us, so to speak. So this particular book that we're going to be sharing on this week's episode of the Children's Book Spotlight Series really holds a special place in my heart and in the hearts of all aspiring young journalists. So if you feel that your tiny tyke has aspirations of becoming a news anchor, a reporter, or even a sportscaster, one of our favorite neighbors is here to inspire your little one to reach their goal of sharing heartfelt stories of hope and healing and kindness with the world. Joining us for her return appearance here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, you may remember her from episode number 85, just a few short trolley stops ago, The Adventures of Mr Mcconnell, published by Ciolito Lindo Books, the brand new release of That Girl on TV Could Be Me, published by our new friends and neighbors at Immedium Publishing. Emmy-nominated anchor, reporter, award-winning children's author Leticia Ordaz joining us as our featured guest here on episode number 103 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Leticia, Happy New Year and congratulations on the release of your brand new book. I know that you're super excited about this, so we're really excited to have you share this with us here this week on the program.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for having me. So glad to be here talking about children's literacy and my new book, That Girl on TV Could Be Me. It's just so important to let children know, as you mentioned, that they could be anything they want to be. And I hope my book inspires them that no matter where they come from or what they look like, they can and will achieve their dreams with hard work.
It's interesting because we were talking about in the green room, the Empowered Publicity green room, the love that I have for, really inspiring, heartfelt stories. Sometimes people write the 300-page memoir. I overcame this, I survived this, and they're able to help people that are going through what it was that they moved through. But you're doing it in such an adorable form. And it's interesting because normally one of the first questions that I asked is, what inspired you to write the X particular book? And it's like, this is your story. So the whole journey has been an inspiration for those of our friends and neighbors, our listeners and viewers who are learning about you. Obviously, you're a popular award-winning anchor out in the Sacramento, California area. You do a great job with KCRA3. Could you share with our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, a little bit about your own journey without necessarily giving away, I think it's kind of safe to say that we know the ending because you did become that girl on TV. Could you share with us a little bit about your journey growing up and really when the time came when you knew that this book had to be released?
Definitely. Well, I was that little girl on TV that watched the news all of the time, obsessed with watching the news and watching those storytellers. I was so fascinated by watching the local news, but I didn't see anyone on TV at that time that looked like me. But I still had that strong desire to one day be that girl on TV. And the first page of the book really starts out with a little girl questioning and asking her mommy why no one on TV looks like me, and always having that encouragement from my mother, who was a farm worker at the time, and saying, hey, if you go to college, you too will be that girl on TV, and always dream big. So she is one of my biggest inspirations, who always encouraged me to go after my dreams. And the reason why I wanted to write this story is because I was that shy girl in class who look down when the teacher was looking around for someone to call on to read a story, to read aloud. So I was that shy girl on TV, and I really wanted to point out there that even if you are shy, this is something that you can overcome. I remember telling a few teachers about my dreams of wanting to be a journalist, and some of them told me, maybe that isn't for you. You're too shy. Are you sure that you want to do that? I think they didn't want me to fail. So they were trying to protect me, but I still had this strong desire, and I always followed my heart. So this message is really for the shy people out there in the world. If you have a strong desire to be someone and other people don't see you in that role, don't give up. I want you to go after your dreams and know that you can grab a hold of them and that they can come true. So that is the reason why I wanted to share my story.
One of my favorite parts of your book was when you were sharing how you locked yourself in your room and you're practicing reading in front of the mirror for 2 hours. So there's a lot of dedication right there. Could you take us in the Wayback Machine to when you were growing up? Obviously, that's one of the specific points, but obviously, in order to be able to achieve something, to have your dream, desire, your goal take flight, it involves work, because otherwise, like, everyone would just become TV anchors and it would just be like that, like the process of osmosis kind of thing. Could you walk us through some of the specific things that you felt growing up, besides what I just mentioned, really helped to prepare and to plant the seeds for you moving forth throughout the rest of your life?
Definitely. I did lock myself in my room for 2 hours every day. No one told me to do this. A teacher didn't tell me, my parents didn't tell me, but I just started to read aloud in front of the mirror, practicing every day. And with each day that went by, I just gained more confidence. And so that is something that I did, and I overcame my fear of speaking out loud. In fact, now I really enjoy it and love it. Obviously, I get paid to do that now, but I really think that you have to be dedicated to a craft. And I started at a really young age honing my skills, and I knew that I had it in me and it just had to come out, right? So I just want all children to just, if you have a passion, you have to go for it. Your parents can't tell you what you're going to be when you grow up. It's something that you have to find within yourself, that you have to have this burning desire, because you're the one that's going to have to go to that job every day. So I joined public speaking courses, and I joined a pageant in high school, and that really helped me, with public speaking as well. We had to give a speech. So some of the girls in that program, they too wanted to be that girl on TV. So I think I just caught the news bug, and I was determined to achieve my dreams.
One of the things, and we'll save a part of this question for at the very end, because of course it's a little tip of the cap to our favorite neighbor, Mr. Rogers. He reminded us throughout many different points in time of his life, when he won the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmys, who helped love us into being. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that now, but save more for the end. There were obviously people that came across your path. You could call them angels on your path. You could call them blessings in disguise, answers to your prayers, right? You wanted to be a journalist. And of course, there are teachers and tutors and mentors that whenever we want to do something, whether it be a career goal or even just like the next step of our life, like if we want to lose 15 pounds to start off the new year, or if we want to learn to become a better parent, there's people that can help us come in. Could you share with us some of the shining stars, so to speak? We'll take a pun out of the children's book spotlights, who really helped you growing up, not only throughout school, but when you were starting off early in your career?
Definitely. Well, I want to say it started with my sixth grade teacher, who believed in me. He knew I was that shy girl, but he called on me all of the time. And I think he really had a mission to get me out of my shell. So that's what great teachers do, right? So I really want to credit him. He is no longer with us. I learned that he passed away, and he is mentioned in this book as a special tribute to him. I hope his family is one day able to read this book that I would dedicate to him as well, for his believing in me. And just, there's been so many people along this path. We never succeed alone. I feel like it always takes a village. It was also my parents who were constantly encouraging me and never once told me that I couldn't achieve my dreams. In fact, I was the first one in my family to go to college. So for me to want to pursue a career in television, it's just something that they just embraced. They knew that when I started the business, I wasn't going to make a lot of money. As I mentioned in the book, I started out in a really small town making $8 an hour, and they never once told me, don't do it. They said, go after your dreams. But along that journey, when I was an intern at the television station, I met so many wonderful people, including Rob Maeda, who was a meteorologist at KCRA, and he immediately took me under his wing and taught me how to do a stand-up when you get in front of the camera and you speak. And when we see it on TV, we only see the person doing it one time and getting it right.
Yep.
But behind the scenes, if it's recorded, I recall doing it up to 20 times to get it right. And he was always encouraging me, just telling me to stick to the point, stick with the facts, describe what you're seeing, and you're going to get it out. So he gave me such wonderful advice. And he was one of those people who believed in me as well.
It's very easy, as you mentioned, to look at the camera and just think, okay, either this is a very easy job, it's a very glamorous job. There's work that's involved, in the role that I play as a publicist and speaking with, producers and assignment editors, anchors, reporters, writers. Like, there's work that's involved in order to see the beautiful stories that you see on television. There's also a lot of behind the scenes because, you can't get to the New York City anchor desk like just, again, through the process of osmosis. You have to start off in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, or Rochester, New York. There's some great people in Rochester, by the way, I might add. Could you talk to us a little bit about some of the struggles and the challenges? Because obviously when it comes to writing a brand new children's books, there's struggles and challenges that you may experience. Could you walk us through some of those? And really, when you were writing this book, was there any parts of you, any sort of maybe things that you thought, any emotions that maybe you kind of suppressed down, that maybe as the result of writing this book, you were able to experience some sort of healing during and looking back at those challenging times in your life and say, you know what, I'm ready to make peace with that. I'm ready to, that difficult time in life. Was there any sort of healing that you experienced as the result of writing this book, looking back on your entire story?
It's been an emotional journey for sure. I find the whole process extremely rewarding. I mean, it was hard to move away from my family to go to Elko, Nevada. First of all, I'd never heard of Elko, Nevada. I knew about Reno, Nevada, and I ended up sending my video to Reno. They sent it to Elko, Nevada, and I got hired shortly after college. So it was really a dream come true to go to a small town. But it's funny because I'd never driven in the snow. I remember having my little car spinning out of control, trying to go to work at 3 a.m. So definitely not a glamorous job as people think. We work crazy hours. I still have a kind of a wacky schedule where I get up at 2 a.m. to go to work. And that was my first job, is waking up at 2 a.m. and driving to work, driving in the elements, which I'd never done before. But more than that, it was leaving my family and so close to my family. So having to make the sacrifice to go to a small town to achieve your dreams, to get to a station and to be handed a camera that weighs almost as much as I do, and to say, you're going to go shoot your first story and you have a deadline in 2 hours. So it was just the thrill of having that job and getting these new assignments. And there were so many challenges along the way, but being alone in a town where you didn't know anyone, and then getting to know the community. And the rewarding part was giving that community a voice through you telling their story. So I think there's so much beauty behind this industry, is that we are able to be voice connectors for the most vulnerable in our community. And I love that. And what was emotional about the book is just looking back and all of my parents' sacrifices. I think that's been the most emotional part for me. One of the pages in the book shows my dad with my graduation cap on and tears rolling down his face. So the first time I read this story to some second graders, I didn't expect it, but all of a sudden tears started pouring down my face and I just couldn't stop. And I had to explain to them that it was so emotional because I was realizing all the sacrifices that my parents had made so I can have a better life and so I can pursue a college degree. So that was a special moment for me when I was able to put my graduation cap on my father, because he had earned that degree as well.
It's very much a fitting tribute to all of the people, including your family, that helped pave the way for you along the way. I think, as the expression goes, it takes a village And I think that's
Yes.
very much aproposly shared. Again, the brand new release that we are sharing on episode number 103 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, That Girl on TV Could Be Me, The Journey of a Latina News Anchor. Our featured guest, Emmy-nominated anchor, reporter, and award-winning children's author, Leticia Ordaz, joining us here on the program. You can purchase your copy of That Girl on TV Could Be Me by heading on over to Amazon.com. While there, feel free to leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so, again, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Immedium. I love the fact, obviously, going back to the Adventures of Mr Mcconnell, you obviously connect with both the English-speaking audience and the Spanish-speaking audience as well too. So, there are, children, especially, the both of us now, we can probably say the both of us reside in the state of California. So there's been a little change since we last spoke. I'm obviously a West Coaster now, but there are children that are Hispanic that they still may know English, but Spanish may be their predominant language. And there's not a lot of children's books that will be shared in both English and Spanish. So could you expand upon why it was important to kind of take that calling card from the Adventures of Mr. Mcconnell and to have it be in That Girl on TV Could Be Me, especially for those young men and women who are growing up who are from, the Hispanic background that want to be news anchors or weather gals or weather guys or sports reporters in the process?
Definitely. Well, I definitely want children to see themselves in this book, whether they are boys or girls. I want them to see a person of color doing something really positive in the community, and for them to have those aspirations to want to go to college. I think it's so powerful for children to open up the pages and to relate to that character. Even though this is my autobiography in the book, it looks like I'm a comic book character. So just making that connection with them. And it's been so powerful because I've been able to donate books to a migrant program, learning kits from migrant kids. And a lot of these kids have never owned a book in their life. And to hear that their parents are now able to read a book to them in their native language, because each page is in English and Spanish. So parents can choose to read it in English and both, or Spanish. So some of these kids had that connection with their parents, where the parents were able to read a book to them for the first time. And to me, that was such a powerful thing to hear, that they were able to share the love of reading with their children because they finally found a book that they could connect with. Inside the book, I talk about my parents being farm workers at one time, and I wrote a message to those kids that said, my parents were farm workers too. You've got to dream big. So that really resonated with them. And I really wanted to get it out in the Latinx community and for them to know that any career is possible. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you want to be on the news, but I just want them to have aspirations. If they want to go to the moon, they've got to put it in their head that they're going to do that. And that's why it was important for me to be able to attract both audiences, right? A lot of kids also want to learn Spanish. So this is a perfect opportunity to be able to compare the text. And for those whose parents don't speak English, what a great opportunity to be able to read with their children. And hopefully this sticks and they will continue to go to the library and look for more books that they can read to their children.
One of the things I really want to mention, Leticia, while we're joining one another is that one of the takeaways from your book, it's very easy. I think, many of us growing up, we wanted to play small, or we felt that we had to play small. As you said, you might have come across people on your path that said, well, are you sure about that? Why don't you, there's people that will say, well, you should take the 9 to 5, take the office job, something, if let's say your grandfather was an accountant and your father was an accountant, that must mean that you want to be an accountant, right? And it's important to be able to inspire our youth, especially with the beginning of the new year, that to not play small, to really not only think big, but do big. And that those sorts of things that before could have looked like grandiose dreams, as long as you take the time, you put in the work, you come from your heart, that things can turn out even better than you can expect in the process. Obviously, things have changed in terms of the way news works over the course of the past, year or so. If we would have had this conversation, let's say maybe, 2-3 years ago, it's not to say that the news has and television in general has undergone a complete metamorphosis, but over the past 10 months, especially with the pandemic and COVID, it's great to see that we're almost on the other end of this, which is also exciting too. How do you believe, obviously with your book touching upon journalism and television news. How do you feel that, kind of looking back to where we were in March of 2020 to where we stand right now and looking ahead to the new year, how has journalism and television news changed amid the current climate?
Well, I think more people are coming to the news more than ever before. Their local news, especially. I mean, I know that the national news has been under attack, but we in your local community live with you. We're going to see you at the grocery store. So we are the people that are accountable to you. You are our neighbors, and this is a trusted source for news. So I think that people really believe that. We connect with our audience. We are their friends. They turn on the TV every morning and they look for us for the facts. They look for us for what's happening with COVID. What is going on with the vaccine? When am I going to get the vaccine? So we are, I think, stronger than ever and a really trusted source, especially in the local community, because they are our friends. We are there to give them information. We're not there to tell them how to think or how to believe. They have to draw their own conclusions with the facts that we are giving them from the experts. So I really think that the pandemic has made local news even stronger. And I know numbers are also showing that viewership with local news is way up because it is one of the most trusted sources. And I think it's a great profession for young people to get into. So I really hope that if they have the news bug, that they too will consider a career in news because it is so fulfilling.
I think this leads me into my next question. It's a perfect segue is that, we've seen, depending upon what side of the aisle that you're on, depending upon what your beliefs and ideologies are, that there's some people that'll be, locked into CNN, some people that are locked into Fox News. Some people, still might go the old school route of the newspaper. Some people might just prefer the local journalism. Why is, not should, but why is, I'll even affirm it in the present tense, why is authentic journalism? Why does that need to be at the heart of our future? Authentic journalism. Sometimes when you hear the word journalism, you don't hear the word authentic or assume the word authentic. So those two words together, authentic journalism, why must that be at the heart of our future as we move forward into 2021 and beyond?
I just think that, we are there to hold people accountable. We are there to get the truth for our community. We are there asking the pressing questions. A part of our democracy is to have a free media. So the community needs us just as much as we need them. We are storytellers. We are voice connectors. And I think more than ever, when there are so many ways to get information, people have to know where they can go for that trusted source of news. You can't believe everything that you're scrolling on Facebook or social media. You have to, in your own community, rely on a group of people or organization that you can go to when situations are happening in your community, when there's breaking news, when there's anything that's going on in your community that's volatile, that you can turn to somewhere and you can look for that trusted source and figure out what you're going to do if your house is on fire. Do you need to evacuate? We are there to tell you and guide you according to the professionals. So I think news is never going to go away. I think we just have to consume it smartly. We can't believe everything that we're reading on Twitter or social media. We have to do our research and make sure we are gathering the correct information.
You're right. And I think it's also important to add, if I may briefly share, is that we live in I like to feel, in a very transparent society. So beforehand, there was kind of this gray area. There was authentic, not authentic, and then sometimes in different realms, or businesses, people were kind of dancing in that in between. Now it's just, I feel that we're in a very transparent society. You can tell if someone is coming from their heart. You can tell if they're doing things for all the right reasons, or if there's an ulterior motive, or if they're trying to kind of force something that is maybe their kind of ideology. So just to be able to, come from your heart, I think is so important. And this also leads me into, because, when we're talking about coming from the heart, there are countless young aspiring journalists, whether it be, coming out of the womb, so to speak, right, through grammar school, high school, and already it seems like, I can remember going, when I wanted to be a sportscaster growing up, I kind of got the bug in grammar school, but it shifted when I was in college. Now there are high schools and even grammar schools that are, working together with television stations, and they're providing opportunities for, before it was just the interns in college. Now it goes back much earlier than that. What are some tips? If there were, let's say, 3 tips for young aspiring journalists, not necessarily to achieve the fame and the success, but to really get into this industry for all of the right reasons and to really leave their mark. In the words of our dear friend Peter H. Reynolds, New York Times bestselling children's author and illustrator, who just joined us a few weeks back in the children's book Spotlight series, he talked about making your mark. So what are some tips for young aspiring journalists to be able to make their mark and lead from their heart?
Definitely. Well, I think if you want to get into the business and you're interested, you don't have to wait until you're in college to do an internship. Start out by trying to shadow someone. I know that's really tough right now with the pandemic and maybe not being allowed, but reach out to your local newscaster that you look up to. I know I've had children and their parents contact me and ask me, can my child have a phone conversation with me present? Can they ask you questions about your profession? And I think that we are all open to wanting to give information to young people who want to make this a career. So definitely reach out to someone that your child looks up to so they can find out more about the job. There are so many opportunities. It's not just in front of the camera, it's also so many positions behind the scenes, storytellers that work for the digital platform. They can be a photographer, they can be an editor, they can be a director. There are so many different positions, and I think it's a perfect time to start interviewing people and definitely practice your writing skills. We write every single day on a really tight deadline, so I think definitely starting to report and tell a story, even a fun story, if you're going to the park with your friends, when that's allowed, if you can recap your day and the highlight of the day and be able to tell it in a concise short story. Maybe record yourself. That's a perfect opportunity to get your parents' phone and to record a little report. I always, when I was able to go into the classrooms, would be able to hand a child a microphone and they would be able to do a sig out for our station, like reporting for KCRA 3. I'm Daniel Nunez, just to have that experience. I think that's so fun, and to get them out of their shell, I think, is the first step as well.
We are beginning to wind down our time with Emmy-nominated anchor, reporter, and award-winning children's author Leticia Ordaz. Joining us as our featured guest here on episode number 103 of the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight series. Once again, the brand new release, That Girl on TV Could Be Me, the journey of a Latina news anchor. It is now available courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Immedium. If you wish to be able to connect with Leticia on social media, to be able to keep this wonderful conversation and dialogue flowing, we have her official social media platforms in the description below. I think that this is something that probably evolves every day, but I'm just curious if you could talk about a day in the life. Because, sometimes when we see someone on television or just someone that we look up to, it doesn't necessarily have to be a television anchor, but it could be, maybe someone who is the principal of a school or someone who owns a non-for-profit organization, that sort of thing. Could you take us behind the scenes for a day in the life of you? And I think that probably can almost change every day. So there's no before, yes, be like, go to the studio at this time and go, do this and shoot this and then maybe have a bite to eat. Like that was kind of the thing before, but things are obviously have been a little bit different over the past 10 months. So what is an ideal day in the life of Leticia Ordaz as a television anchor and reporter?
Definitely. Well, since the pandemic hit, obviously things are really different. In fact, I just did my very first live shot from my own home last week for the first time. So kind of turning my own home into a studio. But my day usually starts very early in the morning. I wake up at 2 in the morning and then I get ready to go to work. I get assigned a story, or maybe I shot something the night before that I'm going to be featuring for the morning newscast. We have a 5-hour show. So every hour I report in that show 2 to 3 times. We report and find different ways to tell our story. If there's breaking news, I will get called off that story to go somewhere completely different. And when I'm reporting, I used to be able to go into the live truck with the photographer and be able to write and make phone calls. But now with the pandemic, we have to take separate cars. So my photographer's in the live truck. I'm driving myself, which means I can't really write my story on the way to a breaking news scene. So I think that we're just all getting really creative with our time, and just making it work. It's so fun. Every day is something different. So I never know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Yes, I shot a story today to air tomorrow, but that doesn't mean it's going to go on the air. It could be something completely different, depending on what happens at night. So I just love the thrill of it. It's not a boring office job. You never know what you're going to be doing. You're always going to be storytelling, which I love, and you're always going to be a voice connector for your community. So I get off around noon or 1 o'clock every day. And then I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 2 young boys. And I love my schedule, as wacky as it sounds, but I'm able to come home and I'm able to help them with their distance learning or whatever they need. So I feel like I'm also able to really be that full-time mom as well, even though I have a really fulfilling career.
That's awesome. I just realized it's before we would say schoolwork, and you just said distance learning, and it just shows how things have changed over the course of the past year. But we'll very soon start to use the term schoolwork more so in the process. Just the evolution of your work as a children's author, I think, it's just so great to see the growth and the expansion that you have. And you have a special project that you're working on in the springtime, which is a little tip of the cap to the Adventures of Mr. McConnell. It seems we haven't seen the last adventure of Mr. McConnell. Could you give us a little sneak peek of what you have working? I believe you're planning on releasing this in April, if I'm not mistaken, if all goes according to plan.
Yes, Mr. McConnell has been so popular, and I am just so blown away by the love and support, Mr. McConnell right here. But since speaking with you, it became a 4-time international award winner for the Latino Book Award. So that was really huge. Edward James Olmos was the MC of the event. So just getting a lot of love from Hollywood, from the entire nation, from the entire world. And it's getting so much love that I've decided to turn it into a series. But before that, I am turning it into a touch and feel board book. My children love touch and feel board books, especially when they were younger. One of our favorites, Pat the Bunny. At 6 months old, my children were able to follow directions as I was reading Pat the Bunny, do this, flip up the little curtain. And they were able to respond so much to that sensory aspect of it that I thought how cool to make Mr. McCaw a sensory book for children where they could touch the sand, touch the pineapple, touch so many different things in the book, touch the ocean. And so that's what I'm creating, and it's in the printing process now. It comes out in the spring, and I really think that families are going to enjoy it, and it's going to give babies a head start when it comes to reading and exposing them to literacy at such a young age.
To have things come full circle, we touched upon early in the course of our conversation here today, our trolley stop, about some of the people that helped love you into being along. And this is the official time of the program where we give that official tip of the cap to Mr. Rogers, who again, encourages. And he always kept the time, whether it be 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute, to remember those who helped love us into being, who helped inspire us along the way. Through the course of our conversation, has there been anyone else that has come to mind? I know that you remembered, I think you mentioned your 6th grade teacher, was it Mr. Heinrich, if I'm not mistaken?
Correct.
Was there anyone else that actually came to mind that you want to publicly recognize and thank as part of your journey to becoming that girl on TV here on the Children's Book Spotlight series?
Well, there are so many people, but it was really cool. I didn't mention that the person that I was watching growing up, I got to work with Lois Hart and Dave Hart. They actually started CNN, or they were the first anchors of CNN. So here I am idolizing this couple who I grew up watching. And then I got to work alongside them at KCRA. So that was really cool. Our desks were right next to each other. They were my biggest mentors, my biggest supporters. I still keep in touch with them to this day. They have since retired, and they just embraced me. They gave me so much confidence. They believed in me, and I just can't thank them enough. And even through my children's book journey, they continue to support me and be my biggest cheerleaders. So you can imagine how that makes me feel, knowing that I idolized them growing up, and now we are dear friends.
It's so amazing to hear. I think that the perfect way to put the bow on episode number 103 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, we have a little segment, of course, called 3 Wishes, where we like to be able to help people and those that join us bring their heartfelt desires and dreams and goals to light. But we're doing a little bit of a different twist for those who have actually joined us on the program for a second or for a third time. I think it's important, especially right now, that we're putting out these wishes for the planet. and for those who are struggling, for the children who still might be moving through some of their own difficulties and challenges, in addition to, you know, what's been happening over the course of the past 10 months. So you're being given 3 wishes. This is a big responsibility for yourself, Leticia. What would be those 3 wishes that you would be able to give out, whether it be again to children, parents, families, the planet? What would those 3 wishes be that you would like to put out into the universe?
Well, I just want for children to not lose their spark and their confidence. I know for some, it's really a struggle to sit through those Zoom classes and to really grasp what the teacher is explaining. I just want them to not give up. I just want them to have that confidence inside of them, knowing that there will be easier times, that they will get back into their classroom. So many of them are missing their friends so dearly. They miss that social interaction. And it's really a struggle. Learning and reading doesn't come easy for everyone. So my wish for children is that they just don't lose the faith. Keep the confidence going. It's going to get easier. And I pray that they are able to ask for help if they need it, and not to be afraid to reach out to their teachers and ask for that extra support, to not be afraid to raise their hand in class. So that's my wish for children. For parents, I wish for them to have patience. It's also been very tough for parents who are having to relearn 4th grade math and like, how do I do these fractions? You know, and your kids are asking, Mom, didn't you take math growing up? You're like, this was a long time ago, and Common Core was not the way I was taught. So I pray that, God gives parents patience. And for the educators, I have a wish for them too. I know this is a really hard time for them as well, and they're just trying so hard to make that connection with children that they may not have met in person. So for them to continue to reach out to those little ones who are struggling, to identify the ones who are struggling, and to just embrace them with a virtual hug, to uplift them and to tell them that they can do it. Children need to hear those words.
Those are beautiful wishes, and I feel that there's a very good likelihood that those will be heard, because if there's people that need to have this sort of message that you're sharing right now be continued to be shared with children, especially now as we head into the new year and beyond. So once again, you can purchase your brand new copy of That Girl on TV Could Be Me, The Journey of a Latina News Anchor. You can simply click on the link below. Just make it super easy for you here at the Children's Book Spotlight series. If you're purchasing the book on Amazon, feel free to leave a 5-star review for Leticia's. That is one of the many ways that you can support Leticia, as well as all of these super amazing children's authors and illustrators that are doing wonderful work for the children. And of course, you can continue the connection and the conversation with Leticia on social media via her social media platforms on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We have those links below as well. Now, if this message has brought hope and healing and love into your heart, or the heart of your little one, or if simply you feel that this message needs to be shared with someone in need, if you know someone who is an aspiring young journalist and is looking for that ideal book or source of inspiration to kind of, jumpstart them in terms of their next steps, we invite you to share episode number 103, this week's special trolley stop of the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight series, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, your favorite social media platforms of choice. Feel free to, of course, to continue to support the Children's Book Spotlight series by subscribing to Empowered Publicity's YouTube channel as well. We appreciate all of the new subscribers to our channel in the process. If you are a children's author, if you are a children's illustrator, and you're interested in joining the Empowered Publicity family and becoming a featured guest on the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight series, just like Leticia did here this week, you can connect with us via our official website at empoweredpublicity.com, or via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen as well too. Of course, if you're a children's author as well and you would like for us to share your brand new children's book on the all-new season of the Storytime with Mr. Jonathan, again, you know how to connect with us via our official website and, of course, our social media platforms, again, that you continue to see on screen. And we are super excited, of course, to be working with our friends and neighbors here in San Diego at CBS 8 CW San Diego for the launch of Empowering Reads for Kids. So if you would like for us to share your brand new heartfelt and heart-centered children's book, on the all-new Empowering Reads for Kids. You know how to connect with us via our official website at empoweredpublicity.com and via our social media platforms on screen. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of children's authors and children's illustrators all across the country and all around the world. But above all else, we want to thank all of you for your support of the children and for helping to walk home the children of the world. We look forward to connecting with all of you very soon for episode number 104. I hear the trolley, so that means that it's time to go. Episode number 104 of the Children's Book Spotlight series will be coming your way in just a few short moments from now. Again, special thanks to Leticia Ordaz for joining us this week. For Leticia Ordaz, for myself, Jonathan Masiulionis, remember a message to our children that you are perfect, you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, that you are loved, you are special, just the way that you are. 243 means that we love you just the way that you are. So once again, thank you for helping to walk home the children of the world and for tuning in to this special trolley stop of the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight series.